Everyone laughed when I joked I'd marry the ugliest woman alive, until her father, an arena legend with 4 arms, heard me. And in front of the whole bar, he offered me 2 choices: run or fight him for his daughter. Ravax 12 wasn't a place where jokes survived very long. The mining moon woke and slept with explosions, small tremors that rattled metal walls and sent dust drifting from the ceiling like tired snow. People didn't flinch anymore. They just drank harder. Rook Hale sat at the edge of the bar counter, nursing the cheapest drink the bartender could legally serve without poisoning him. He was exhausted in a way sleep couldn't fix, the kind of tired that lived behind the ribs and refused to leave. A year ago, he'd walked away from a security job after a mistake cost lives. Since then, he'd hopped planets and moons, trying to outrun memories he never managed to shake off. Tonight wasn't special. Just another loud, filthy bar filled with miners in cracked exosuits, mercenaries with too many scars, and aliens who smelled like high-grade solvents. Rook sat there half listening to the chaos, half wishing someone would knock him out so he could have an excuse not to think. Then, like an idiot, he opened his mouth. "I swear," he said, lifting his cup, "I'd marry the ugliest warrior in this entire bar, if she could keep a gun steady." The reaction was instant, a rolling wave of laughter. Somebody slapped the table hard enough to knock over cards. Someone else shouted, "Good luck, human." A drunk, lizard-faced miner cackled so hard he nearly fell off his stool. For a moment, Rook felt normal. Not healed, not redeemed, just human again. But then the laughter died. Not slowly, not naturally, but as if someone had reached into the room and squeezed the sound out of everyone's throat. A shadow stretched across Rook's table. Not a normal shadow. A wide, heavy, 4-armed shadow. The creature it belonged to stepped into the dim light, and the air inside the bar seemed to fold inward. Conversations evaporated. Even the bar's ventilation system quieted as if afraid. The warrior was massive, towering, scarred, eyes burning with old battles. 2 of his hands rested on the table. The other 2 hovered in the air like raised verdicts. He grinned, a dangerous grin. "So," he rumbled, voice like metal dragged across stone, "you seek the ugliest warrior?" Rook blinked. "I was joking." The warrior leaned closer, for arms flexed, teeth bared. "I am Vorgen, father of the one you insult. If you want my daughter, you fight me at dawn." The bar erupted, not in laughter this time, but in fear and betting frenzy. Rook's stomach dropped. His joke had just declared war. Rook spent half the night convincing himself that running wasn't cowardice. It was strategic survival. By sunrise, he'd rehearsed 3 escape plans, 5 excuses, and 1 very unconvincing speech about cultural misunderstandings. He used none of them, because curiosity was stronger than fear, and guilt was even stronger than curiosity. If he was going to die, he at least wanted to know why. The training district sat on the edge of Ravax, 12 like a metallic skeleton. Rows of rusted scaffolds, broken arena gates, flickering lamps, and fighters warming up in the cold morning air. The smell of sweat, burnt metal, and desperation hung thick over everything. Rook kept his injured pride close and his shaking hands closer. He found Vorgen's training chamber easily. It was the only place where fighters practiced in total silence. No grunts, no shouts, no heavy impacts. Just the rhythmic whisper of someone moving with precision. Inside, a tall figure flowed through a combat routine. Not danced, floated. Every strike, kick, and spin was terrifyingly controlled. She moved like a blade that had learned how to breathe. She wore a cracked metal mask covering half her face, and a long braid of silver-black hair whipped with each motion. Her skin, blue with faint luminescence, caught the cold light and turned it into something ethereal. Rook watched for too long, feet rooted to the floor. Then she stopped mid-motion and turned her head slightly. "You're the human," she said, voice quiet but sharp enough to cut. He swallowed. "Unfortunately, yes." She stepped closer, tall, imposing, but not aggressive. More like someone prepared to handle trouble rather than start it. "You accepted my father's challenge." Accepted is a strong word. Rook muttered. It was more of a reflex. She stared at him through the mask for a long, uncomfortable moment. Then, without warning, she lifted it off. Rook didn't flinch. He froze. Her face wasn't ugly. It was beautiful, beautiful in a way forged through pain and resilience. But the scars told stories. Long, deliberate lines, ritualistic, symmetrical, impossible to ignore. "My name is Serena Vorgen," she said, gently placing the mask aside. "And before you imagine some tragic romance, let me save you time. You do not want to win this fight." Rook blinked. "That obvious?" She nodded. Then, unexpectedly, she smirked. "A small one, but real. My father doesn't want a husband for me. He wants a replacement, a successor, someone brutal enough to carry his legacy. If you lose, you die. If you win, you inherit a curse." Rook rubbed his face. "Fantastic. So whether I live or die, I'm doomed." Serena stepped closer, voice softer now. "You could walk away. Can I?" He didn't mean physically. She understood anyway. "No," she murmured. "You're the first fool who looked at me without fear." For a moment the silence felt warmer. Then she whispered the words that would haunt him all day. "Rook, hail tomorrow, my father won't test you. He'll try to break you." And for the first time since his stupid joke, Rook truly felt afraid. Dawn on Ravax 12 looked nothing like morning. It was gray, metallic, and cold, like the world was waking up just to watch someone die. Rook stood at the edge of the arena gates, wrapped in cheap armor that felt more like a joke than protection. A guard shoved a rusted blade into his hands. The metal rattled like it doubted him too. "Any advice?" Rook asked. The guard shrugged. "Yeah, don't die messy. Hard to clean. Perfect." This moon had jokes too. The gates groaned open, metal scraping metal, announcing him to the world. The arena was bigger than he expected. A massive pit lined with iron spikes, old bones, and sand stained darker in certain patches. Spectators packed the stands. A hungry mix of miners, smugglers, and off-world fighters betting on how fast he'd die. Rook stepped onto the sand, heart hammering. His breath misted in the frigid air. He lifted his sword, tried to look brave, settled for not trembling visibly. Then another gate thundered open. Vorgen emerged, not calmly, not dramatically, but like a force of nature tearing the light apart. He wore minimal armor, he didn't need any. His forearms were wrapped in battle tape, each hand flexing with lethal familiarity. Every step he took thudded through the sand. The crowd roared, chanting his name like he was a living god. Vorgen stopped 10 feet away from Rook and tilted his head curiously. "You came," he said simply. "Well," Rook muttered. "My schedule was free." A few spectators laughed, just enough to make Vorgen's eyebrow twitch in amusement. Then his expression changed. Serious, focused. "Human," Vorgen said, voice echoing across the pit. "There is no shame in fear, only in running from it." Rook tightened his grip. "Good, because I'm terrified." Vorgen's lips curled. Not a smile, but recognition. The horn blared. The fight began. Vorgen moved first, fast, impossibly fast for someone his size. 2 arms attacked high, too low. Rook dodged the first strike purely by instinct, rolled under the second, and barely avoided the sweeping kick that followed. He struck back, clumsy but desperate. Vorgen blocked with one arm, and used another to shove Rook across the sand like he weighed nothing. Pain exploded through Rook's ribs. He gasped, forcing himself to stand. Vorgen circled him, studying, assessing, almost teaching. "You are not weak," Vorgen said. "But strength is more than surviving your own mistakes." Rook felt something burn inside him. Anger, shame, the memory he never outran. He charged. Vorgen blocked easily, but something flickered in his eyes. Respect. Then, a glint. A flash from the high balcony. Serena's scream tore through the arena. "Rook, get down!" Rook saw it. A sniper. Barrel aimed directly at Vorgen's spine. And without thinking, without fear, Rook launched himself toward the Warlord. Not to strike. To save him. The shot fired. The world shattered. The world returned in pieces. Sound first, then blurry light, then the sharp bite of pain tearing through Rook's side like a hot blade. He wasn't dead, which honestly surprised him. The medbay ceiling above him flickered with a faulty light strip, humming like it pitted him. Machines beeped around his bed, steady but impatient, as if annoyed he'd survived something that should have killed him. Someone was sitting beside him. Serena. She looked different without her battle posture. Softer, almost fragile in a way her scars never were. She had one knee pulled up to her chest, her hands wrapped around it, staring at him like she was afraid he'd vanish if she blinked. "You're awake," she whispered. Rook groaned. Unfortunately, a tiny laugh escaped her. Shaky, unsure, but real. It was the first thing that made the pain feel bearable. He tried to sit up, but a bolt of agony forced him back. Serena moved instantly, adjusting the pillow behind him, her touch careful but firm. "You took a bullet meant for my father," she said quietly. "Why?" Rook blinked at her, confused. "I didn't plan it. I just moved." Serena's eyes tightened. People don't throw themselves into gunfire just because. He hesitated. There were words he hadn't said aloud in years, and saying them now felt like peeling open an old wound he'd kept stitched shut with guilt. "There was someone I didn't save once," he murmured. "I froze, and he died. I wasn't letting that happen again." Serena looked away, jaw tightening, throat working as if swallowing something heavy. Silence stretched, deep, uncomfortable, honest. The door slid open. Vorjen entered. But this wasn't the unstoppable warlord from the arena. He looked diminished. His forearms hung low. His breathing was ragged. His skin had a sickly gray tint. He nodded to Serena, then to Rook. "You are alive," he said, voice thinner than before. "Sorry to disappoint," Rook muttered weakly. Vorjen almost smiled, almost. Then his expression shifted to something more fragile, more human. "I owe you a truth," he said. "To both of you." Serena's posture stiffened. She stood beside Rook's bed like a soldier preparing for impact. Vorjen sat heavily, all four hands resting on his knees. "The sniper was not a random attack," he said. "It was the Arena Council. They want me gone. I am dying anyway. Old battles have eaten my organs." Serena flinched, but he continued. "And the scars I carved into my daughter," his voice cracked, "were not meant as punishment. They were meant as protection. A ritual I performed in ignorance and rage. I ruined what I meant to shield." Serena froze. Her breath hitched. Rook watched helplessly as the truth landed like a knife in her chest. Vorjen bowed his head. "I cannot undo what I did, but I can give you both something I never gave myself." He looked at Serena. "Freedom." Serena didn't speak at first. She just stood there, shoulders rigid, eyes locked on the father she had feared, loved, hated, and protected all at once. Rook could almost hear her heartbeat in the silence. Vorjen kept his head bowed, all four hands trembling slightly. Whether from illness or regret, Rook couldn't tell. Maybe both. When Serena finally moved, it wasn't with anger. It was with exhaustion. "How long?" she whispered. Vorjen lifted his gaze, pain etched into every line of his face. "Months, perhaps less. The toxins from the arena, they do not forgive age." Serena swallowed, her scars shifting with the motion. She'd always looked unbreakable until now. "Why tell us?" she asked. "Because I cannot leave you the way I lived," Vorjen said softly. "In violence, in pride, in lies." His voice cracked again, barely more than a rumble. "And because the two of you deserve a life that is not shaped by my mistakes." Rook felt the words settle inside him, heavy but strangely warm. This wasn't the warlord from the bar. This was a man stripped down to regret and truth. Vorjen reached out with one upper hand, hesitated, then let it fall to his knee. "I cannot fix the past," he said, "but I can choose the ending." Serena took a shaky breath, wiping her face roughly with her sleeve. You think giving us freedom makes everything better? No, Vorjen answered. It simply makes forgiveness possible. Someday. If you want it. The honesty in his voice hit harder than any blow from the arena. Rook pushed himself up despite the pain. He didn't know what to say, but silence felt wrong. You're not the only one carrying weight, Vorjen, he murmured. But you gave us the truth. That's more than most people ever do. Vorjen studied him with tired, ancient eyes. You protected me, he said. Not because of honor, because you refused to fail again. Rook nodded once. And because of that, human, you are already stronger than I ever was. Serena's breath caught. Whether from pride or fear, Rook couldn't tell. Vorjen rose slowly, each limb shaking with effort. He placed a metal band on the table between them, intricately carved, heavy with meaning. My last request, he said. Do not inherit my legacy. Build your own. He looked at Serena one final time. My daughter, live a life that is yours. Serena broke then. Not loudly, not dramatically, but with a quiet, trembling sob that felt like the release of years she'd never allowed herself to feel. Rook reached for her hand. She didn't pull away. Vorjen turned toward the door, for arms hanging low. A warrior undone. A father forgiven just enough to breathe his last days in peace. As the door closed behind him, Serena whispered, I'm leaving this moon. Rook squeezed her hand gently. Not alone, you're not. For the first time, her smile wasn't a mask. It was real, and fragile, and hopeful. Together, they looked toward whatever waited beyond Ravax 12. Not running from the past, but walking toward something better. And that's how a careless joke turned into a battle, a bullet, a truth long buried, and a bond neither of them expected. Rook didn't win a bride. He found purpose. Serena didn't earn freedom. She claimed it. And together, they walked away from the scars of Ravax 12, not as fugitives or heirs to violence, but as two broken souls choosing to build something stronger than fate ever offered them. Sometimes the ugliest stories create the most beautiful endings.